Hello students, it seems we have a new student here in our class. Her name is the Queer Kiwi, and she did a video presentation and she asked me to respond to her, and so that's what I'm going to do. The title of her presentation is The Vegan Teacher. That vegan teacher is not a real vegan. By the way, check these out. If you ever want to get some free stickers from PETA, you can get them and put them all over your computer. That's PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. And they're free. You go to PETA.org for those. All right, so right off the bat, I just want to talk about her conclusion. At one point at the end, she says that I am sexist, homophobic, and racist. Even though I was literally wearing shirts that said that I was against homophobia and that I was against racism, for some odd reason she said these at the end. Now I know that these are some bizarre rumors that are going around, and it's almost like she forgot everything that she said in her speech and then just decided to randomly put that in a conclusion. So that was just another bizarre thing. I mean, I have been vegan since June 27th of 2016, and I've been fighting against vegan phobia on this app, on the TikTok app, and everywhere. But also, I've been a feminist and fighting for women's rights since this young lady was even a thought. I'm 56 years old, and I've also been fighting for the rights for the LGBTQ community. I was one person here in Canada who was fighting for their right to be able to marry. I am a bisexual and part of this community, and yet apparently, somehow through all that, I'm also homophobic. It's the strangest thing. Racist. Apparently I'm racist. Even though I fight for the rights of dark-skinned people of all different shades constantly, and think that they should have a right to all of the rights that anybody else does, and that they should not be discriminated against. They should have equal wages, equal access to jobs, be treated fairly. And as a school teacher, I know for a fact that if I ever had anybody in the class with darker skin, I always kept that in mind and was extremely careful not to ostracize this person or whoever they might be, and even go so far as to give them the benefit of the doubt where I never would have if these kids had white skin, because I know that they suffer in life, and so why would it make it harder on them? But apparently I'm still racist. Yeah. Even though every February, when it was Black Awareness Month, I was consistently thinking about what to do, how to teach, how to be a better advocate, how to help the students. Apparently I'm still racist. So yeah, there's quite a few. So saying I'm sexist, you get an X. Saying that I'm homophobic, you get an X. And saying that I am racist, that's another X. So you did get a check mark for just doing a presentation though, so that's good. You've got so far. Here's your score. 1 check mark and 3 X's. All right. Let's see, where's my little notes here? At one point in your speech, you said that if somebody was not fully vegan, that is okay and that's enough. And nope, you're wrong about that, so I'm going to get another X. It is not okay. You can never say it's okay. You can say that somebody who is on their way to transitioning, such as, for example, that they are really cutting down on the meat or the dairy or the eggs in their diet with the end goal of being vegan as soon as possible, you can say that, and that's okay. But to say that, making small changes and just staying there, that's okay? No, it's not okay. That's showing your privilege, because you are privileged to be born in the body that you are. That seems to make you think that you have the right to treat the other species as lesser than you. And this is not something that we teach here at our school. So that's an X for you. You said at some point, don't just promote carrots and hummus, that I should be promoting ice cream and chocolate instead. Well, first of all, I have done over 2,400 TikTok videos. I assume you've watched them all, right? Yeah. So you don't think that ever I promoted vegan ice cream or vegan chocolate? Okay. So, yeah, a couple of X's there because I, of course, have in several videos. promoted both of those. I don't just promote carrots and hummus. So I don't do that. So that's another lie. So there's a lot of things you did here that are bizarre. You talked about people who can't be vegan because they're on food stamps or because their families don't have enough money or they are ill and sometimes they just have to go to McDonald's because they have no other choices. Well, let's go through these one by one. If somebody's on food stamps and they can't afford it, then they are still by definition vegan, as long as they are trying their absolute best at all times. Now that means to say that if they're in the store and they have a can to choose from, a can of lentils or a can of something that contains some meat, and they choose the meat, that's not okay, they're not vegan. That's just not okay. But if the only choice is there for some crazy reason is that they're gonna die if they don't eat the meat, then by definition, they're still vegan. So that was not okay to do that. If somebody is ill, that's not an excuse either to eat animals. Okay, that's again showing your privilege. You do not need to eat animals. If you're ill, there are other things to eat. There are blenders. You can do them by hand. You can blend things by hand if you can't for some reason swallow. There are all kinds of other proteins to eat. There's just no excuse for hurting an animal. The only excuse, as I said before, all the time, is if you are literally unable to get access to anything else and you are going to die or going to get extremely, extremely ill and be on the verge of dying. So if you're living, let's say, way up north and you don't have access to a store and there's no tofu, there's no vegetables, and there's only fishing that's available, then by definition you are still vegan, because being vegan is about the animals. It's not about you. It's not about a diet. So you got that wrong. If a person's family is vegan, it depends how old that person is. If the child is 10 years old and they are being forced to eat dead flesh or to drink milk from a cow and they have no other choice, they're still vegan by definition because they're trying their best at all times. What else here? You talked about salad is gross. I'm not sure why on earth you would ever mention that in a video, because even if you might think that, why not keep that to yourself? Why try to convince or tell all of your other viewers that salad is gross? Why not just think, say something like, I really prefer these types of vegetables. Salad is not my personal favorite. But to say salad is gross as if it's categorically a statement of fact, that's another X. Something about healthy vegans are boring, or talking about vegan health is boring, or vegans who eat healthy are boring. There's another X for you. I'm sorry, young lady, but you're really not getting it. There's nothing boring about taking care of oneself. And again, you're showing your privilege, because you are at a smaller weight. You seem to be maybe able to metabolize or eat whatever you want. Not everybody can, and you should really be aware that if somebody is making healthy vegan choices because they need to, because they're grossly overweight and their doctor has told them to, then there's nothing boring about taking care of one's health. So just because you're young and able to eat whatever you want, however many donuts you said you ate in a day, and all this chocolate and ice cream, doesn't mean that everybody can, and it's not healthy. It's not good to promote that idea. You also said that something about that I am, let's see here, housing job into your, okay. So yeah, you said that something about just my feelings getting hurt, talking about vegan phobia. My songs written about vegan phobia are primarily about the students that I have on TikTok who have told me repeatedly that they feel bullied. They feel they are being discriminated against because of their veganism. They are being attacked in their comment sections and all kinds of personal attacks that go on. I know that I'm a victim of vegan phobia. I don't need you to tell me. And you, again, are acting from a position of privilege, if you can say that. Because you are not an actual animal rights activist. Being a vegan here on YouTube and just talking about how great your life is and all these different foods that you can eat is not an animal rights activist. And that's why you, by definition, are not a true vegan, because veganism is not attacking other vegans. Vegans is lifting other vegans up, helping us to get the message out there. Your only job was to tell the world all the good things that I'm doing here And if you wanted to communicate with me in private, you could do that. But to deliberately make a video lying and saying that I'm all these things that I'm not, and then saying things like that I had been, what else did you say? Something about, you say that I'm attacking people, and that doesn't work. But you have no idea of the context. On TikTok, if somebody makes a video, a public video that has like 300,000 views attacking me and saying, and I don't even know who this person is, I don't care what their age is, I think I have a right to make a rebuttal response. Don't I? Maybe you think I don't. Maybe you think I should check their age and, they're only 17, so they're just a little child. So I shouldn't be able to say, hey, you, that wasn't nice. Even if they deliberately make a video and say, hey, Miss Katie, hey, that vegan teacher, watch me. I'm going now to go and fry these dead bodies up and eat them in slow motion in front of you. According to you, Miss Kiwi, that's just fine, and I shouldn't attack her. See, we see things differently. To me, I was merely responding and saying, that's not okay. And yes, I do it in a forceful way. Forceful. Let me retract that word. I do it with, by coming close to the camera and speaking directly and looking into the person's eyes. Now, that is not forcing anybody, because I'm not grabbing anybody and shoving tofu down their mouth or anything even remotely like that. But I give my message pretty clearly to those kids. Regarding Tommy Innit, this is the apparently he's 16. I personally thought he was 18 because he said he was at college. I'm here in Canada. I just assumed that he was older, but actually that is irrelevant. I heard from his friends, followers, whatever, that he had made a statement that said he hates vegans. I didn't know if that was true or not, but if somebody's saying that and he's making TikTok videos, I went up to the camera again and did two 15-second videos that said, hey, Tommy, you know, basically not in these words, but basically, you should be vegan, you know? And there's nothing wrong with doing that. This is not attacking somebody. I didn't swear at him. I didn't yell. It was quite cute and you know, harmless. So, yeah, put an X for that too. So, or, you know, lying and telling people that I attack people, not cool. You're saying something about that I should talk about food more. Yeah, I mentioned that before, and that's not my thing. I'm here to talk about the ethics of animal rights. I'm talking about the ethics that are ethical responsibility to the animals. My job on TikTok, maybe that's your job, whatever you define as your brand of your veganism. Mine is not to discuss recipes, although of course I do. I talk about food and various things, but my main thing to talk about is the animals and put the focus constantly on the animals and their suffering. And if you think that an eating disorder is an excuse to eat animals, then we differ greatly. Again, this is your privilege. You have no right to encourage anybody to hurt animals. Let's say that you had an eating disorder and your eating disorder told you that you had to eat cows and pigs and chickens, right? According to you, you would say, well, that's okay. People should be allowed to eat any of the food groups. Animals are not a food group. Animals are sentient beings who want to live. What you're also saying is that you, when you had your eating disorder, if you had an absolute need to eat the food group, which was cats and dogs, according to your logic, then that would be fine, right? That's just fine, because, you know, you little miss teenager who has her eating disorder has the right to kill cats and dogs because, you know, you just can't eat the tofu and the lentils while you work your way through your eating disorder. It's bullshit. And any therapist who tells you that you need to eat dead animals and to continue to harm others while fixing yourself, something's wrong with those therapists. They don't understand. If you were in an area with a therapist, just you and your therapist, and there were no other things to eat, you don't think that your therapist has the brains and the heart to be able to heal you through your eating disorder by simply using other methods? I mean, the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine talks about this. And one thing that therapists should do and this is my view, is that we should start from the moral baseline as we're not hurting animals. So now, let's go and fix this eating disorder. Let's talk about your problems, your childhood, your terrible relationship with food. But we're not going to include animals in that. We are not going to go over there because they are not food. And then you will find a way to fix your eating disorder. So I do not agree that you are a real vegan if you are telling people that it's okay for them to go and ask somebody to murder for them. If you had an eating disorder, you have an eating disorder in your room, you're in a room and there's an apple and a pig, you're telling me that you would need to take a knife and stab that pig and kill that pig. That's how much you need bacon. I find it strange. And yeah, you were proudly saying that you hadn't had a vegetable for 3 days. I haven't had a vegetable for 3 days. It's just not something that I think is a good thing to say. So all in all, let's have a look. Did you talk about, just in closing here, let's look at a few things. Did you talk about the meat industry? Did you talk about how the mother pigs are kept in tight, confined spaces in your oral presentation? Did you talk about the animals at all? I don't think so. Did you talk about how they cut the baby pigs' tails off at birth and they rip out their teeth without any anesthetic at all? No. You thought it was more important to attack a vegan animal rights activist instead. Maybe I'll put an X for that one too. Did you talk about the dairy industry and how the cows are treated? Did you talk about how the males are masturbated, the sperm is forcefully inserted into the female? Rape? Rape. No consent. Did you talk about how the baby cows are removed from their mothers, and if they're boys, they are murdered and turned into veal? I don't think you talked about that. Did you talk about how the females, and apparently you say, I'm sexist, but it's okay with you if people, when they're having their eating disorders, go ahead and steal the milk from a female cow that belongs to her baby, and then the baby girl is put back into the cycle of violence? That's okay with you, apparently. I find that odd. And for that, you get another X. Did you talk about the egg industry and how the baby chicks are put in blenders when they're born, if they're boys? Little baby chick, super cute, giant assembly line. Check for the baby's gender. Oh, it's a boy. He will never be able to lay eggs, so let's put him in this giant blender where he's murdered. Did you talk about that, Kiwi? I don't think so. But you thought it was important to call me a sexist and a racist and homophobic. Well, I have lots of other criteria here. One of them, the last ones, is did you in your speech at any time praise an animal rights activist? Did you name the person and say, this person is a good animal rights activist? I think you did that. I didn't go to the account, but you did send a link to somebody, and I'm pretty sure that you did. So I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt on that and give you a check mark. So here's your final total. And I'll go and check that link when I have the time, I hope. But I have about 10 other videos like this to make because there's just me. There's one me, and all of the rest of you are all the same. You know, I expected better from you, Kiwi. You are an animal rights activist, apparently, or you're vegan anyway. Of all the things you could have done, of all of the meat eaters that are out there, this was your choice of vegan, of a video to make as a vegan? I don't know. I don't think you're really vegan. That's my final analysis. Keep trying. Be better from now on.